Opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not WSTU. WSTU does not endorse and products mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU.
The Treasure Coast longest-running local talk radio show is on the air. The Treasure Coast Forum, brought to you by Get interested, get educated, get involved, and give us a call with your opinions at 220-9788. And here's your host of the Treasure Coast Forum.
Welcome to WSTU 1450. My name is Jimmy Jai, and I'm here with
Lucas Glory.
Vance Williams.
All right, Lucas and Vance, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Good to have you guys here in the house, as we say.
Oh.
Very good. So it's been a busy week, and I know. So our regular host is out
on a field trip.
She is
Pretty
out
cool.
on assignment, right?
Yeah.
we could say that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Is she on the IB field trip?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Pretty
Very
cool.
good. So what is she doing on the field trip? Do you know?
Yeah, I think they went to an aquarium and like an art exhibit in Miami. I
Nice.
think. Pretty cool.
Very good.
Yeah.
Right after the earthquake, they had an earthquake, in the Caribbean.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
And
That's
they-
the second
Puerto Rico,
one.
right?
And they felt it. No, just the
No.
other day.
Yeah. There was one in Puerto Rico, but just recently there was one, I think, in
It was
Oh, yeah,
actually
no,
in the
you-
Caribbean,
yeah.
and created. They were concerned about the big waves coming ashore, and it was actually felt. The vibrations of the earthquake were felt in Miami.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, the aftershocks
Mm-hmm.
made it all the way there. They had
Yeah.
to evacuate a bunch of buildings.
Oof. So not a good thing. So we want to talk about the coronavirus, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what do you got?
So the coronavirus has been a pretty recent.
You don't get that from drinking the Corona beer, right? No.
No.
Okay.
But I did hear
No.
that it was prevented and sometimes like cured, like less severe cases were cured by alcohol, which was
Corona.
ironic.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Well,
yeah,
that's interesting.
I believe it started in like Wuhan, China, which is
Yep.
central, I
Mhm,
guess.
mhm.
I think right.
From a market, they think it was actually from some of the live animals that are sold at the market.
Really?
The outdoor markets. Yeah.
Oh, man.
I'm pretty sure it was started by the bats. That's
Bats?
what I was told.
Oh yeah, the guana from the bats. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of weird things that they sell in these markets. you
Oh,
know.
for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I believe that there's been 106 deaths now, possibly more. Well,
Mhm.
that's reported,
Right.
and I think that's outside of the mainland China area.
Mhm.
And there's 4,500 confirmed cases outside of mainland China, so it's definitely more widespread than we thought it was, I
Right.
guess.
Right.
And the first it's like the first what do you call it, human to human case.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool.
I thought it was animal to human. It was animal to human, then it can just be
Well,
spread everywhere. else.
Right. And now it's human to human contact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What really shocked me was that it was like related to the common cold. Like after doing some research in it, like it's actually not that far off from the common cold, and it's like really preventable
Yeah,
too.
it starts off like looking like the common cold, so not many people like recognize it, and then if in some cases it just gets more like severe.
Yeah, I think it morphs into pneummonia.
Oh,
and,
really?
And most of the people who do die, they die really as a result of getting pneumonia. Mhm.
Yeah. I heard that
You heard something, right?
yep. My mind just blanked.
Yeah. Welcome to my world. Wait till you get to be my age. I
Oh.
have more blank moments than on.
I cannot wait. Anyways, Britain said that instead of just avoiding the Wuhan area, that
Mhm.
they were advised not to visit mainland China at all. And the
Mhm.
people that are there right now, they have to sign up on a consulate form, I think, to try to leave China. And when they are like able to leave, it's like with really short notice.
Mm.
So I don't know, kind of scary for the people that are there, I guess.
There's over 50 million people that are on lockdown, right? They
Really?
can't leave their cities,
Yeah.
communities, which is larger than larger than the population of Canada.
Wow.
More people are being restricted, than the entire population of Canada.
That's crazy.
It is nuts. So, yeah.
Yeah. I think, is it 13 countries that have had like reported cases?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah.
So this is according to CNN. Let's see, 7,000 are held on a ship as the virus fears spread. So just one. So there's
I'm pretty sure like a cruise liner went to China
Right.
and coming back to the UK. Was it the UK? Right?
let me open that up and see where they're heading to.
Whatever country it was,
Yeah.
they were forced to stay on the cruise and
Right.
like make sure everyone was not
Right.
contaminated.
Right. And I know there was a plane load of 200 Americans from Wuhan that flew back on a private plane. It was yesterday. And they are voluntarily going to spend a couple, 2-3 days, I think, in a confined area, so that just to make sure that they're not sick before they are allowed to repopulate here into the U.S.
Really? That's
So they're
crazy.
taking themselves out of circulation just in case,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know in Germany, there was someone that had a Chinese colleague that had just recently traveled from Shanghai. Like they lived in Shanghai,
Mm-hmm.
and their parents were from Wuhan, and they had just recently visited.
Mm-hmm.
So that Chinese colleague had contracted it from their parents, and then spread it to their German friend.
Right. So this is the problem. See, sometimes people may not present with any of the symptoms, but they may be actively contaminating other people for up to 21
Yeah.
days.
Oh man.
Yeah, so that's a real problem.
Yeah.
So this
That's
is
probably
why
how it spread so fast.
That's it.
Yeah.
that's it.
Man.
So yeah, the number of cases, according to CNN, the number of cases of the virus, which has killed at least 170 people, has shot up more than to 8,100 mainland China alone by Thursday evening. There's a higher number of infected people than the number who caught SARS worldwide during the 2002-2003 epidemic. However, the current case fatality rate for Wuhan virus is only about 2%. Again, this is the percentages that CNN is using the information given to them by the PRC.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't always trust them.
Uh,
They don't always report
you-
the full truth.
Well, yeah. So you want to take that into consideration when you look at the
Yeah.
statistical data that they provide.
For sure.
Mhm.
And I was told that a lot of the cases in China, most of them aren't reported because of the cremation. Is that it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Because what happens, there's only so many testing kits to go around.
Oh.
And so when somebody presents with a likelihood of having the virus and they pass away as a result of that virus, they get immediately cremated. And if they are never tested, then they are not statistically added to the death count.
Wow.
So
Yeah, you can't always trust the government over there for sure.
yeah, it's but that's a very creative way for them to kind of skew the numbers.
Yeah. For sure.
Mm. So while the virus originated in the Chinese city of Wuhan in December, there are now more than 100 cases in 20 other countries and territories spanning Asia, North America, Europe, the Middle East, and India. And the Philippines were the latest to confirm the virus has reached their shores as well.
So it's really everywhere
Yeah.
now.
That's why the
Okay.
World Health Organization's kind of
Yeah,
jumped in.
they announced like a global health emergency around the world. But like I don't know exactly when did the virus like arrive in the U.S.
Just the other day, I think about a week ago, I think there was
Really?
the first reported case that I think was, I want to say was in Washington State, maybe. And then I think the second case was in Chicago. So
Wow. I know that
I think we
like
have 5 active cases right now in the U.S.
yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good. I know that in an effort to like kind of contain the virus in China, Chinese New Year was just recently
They
happened.
canceled the New Year.
Yeah, they canceled like a lot of the big celebrations, which is crazy because I know like
I mean, that's like Christmas and 4th of July all rolled into one, right?
yeah, my family in China, they were really like excited about watching it. Like that's kind of like a tradition
Sure.
around there.
Yeah.
And I don't know. So it's like affected people that like haven't even like been near the areas.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, and so, but this time of year, a lot of people travel home to China from,
Oh,
from,
yeah.
that live in other countries because to celebrate the Chinese New Year. So not, and what a terrible time for the virus to break out when all these people are traveling to and from China right now.
For sure.
Yeah.
Do you think that this could be like kind of like, I know people are calling it like the next plague. Do you think that's at all plausible?
No, the problem with these viruses, they keep morphing, they keep changing.
Yeah.
Because originally the likelihood was it was a virus that through some sort of animal from the market in Wuhan, right?
Yeah.
So, but then now it is now going human to human contact.
Yeah.
So it's changed. So it's already morphed one way that we know of for sure, and then likely it'll continue to change. So I know they are trying already through the CDC, trying to make some different tests or come up with a vaccine to see if they can lessen the severity of the virus. But sometimes it just has to run its course. But keep hydrated. If you feel like you have the flu, just keep hydrated and wash your hands often.
For sure.
Yeah. That's a big thing. A lot of people don't realize washing hands is more important than anything else. And you don't even need soap, but just water for at least a minute or two. Soap is ideal, but water just because it helps to wash it away.
SARS is like pretty treatable, isn't it? Just like not this strain. That's probably why it's taking them so long to like.
Well, it took a
whole-
while for them to even like nail down the SARS to come up with a vaccine for that too. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a little bit behind the curve, and sometimes sometimes they see viruses pop up and they try to do these broad spectrum antiviral agents to try to catch it into sweet spots somewhere. Sometimes they hit it right. Even this year, they say the flu vaccine, they didn't quite hit it quite right. It's maybe 15% effective.
Oh, seriously?
Really?
Yeah.
What's the point then?
Well, it's still.
They try to like predict like the future. Like that's what they usually do. They
trying
usually
to hit a moving target.
Yeah, they try and like predict based off like past events and past like flu viruses to try and predict what flu virus is, because they can only make like a certain amount of flu vaccines for like each amount. So they only like create like 4 different vaccines for 4 different types of the flu.
Mm-hmm.
So like sometimes they're right, and then most of the time they're wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a best guess is the best way to look at it.
I don't know about you guys, but every time like I get vaccinated every year and I get it every year.
Every time I get vaccinated, I get the flu. I got vaccinated this year and I'm afraid I might get the flu again, but because last year it was the same exact thing.
Most of the health authorities will tell you, even if you do get vaccinated and you do get the flu, you're going to get a weaker version of that flu. It's going to be less impactful than if you didn't have the vaccine. So that's good to know.
I guess.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Honestly, I hate needles, so I'd rather take my chances, but
I tell you what, when you're some days, I tell you what, people that get really sick with the flu, they're afraid they're going to die. Then they're afraid they're not because they're just so sick. Yeah, it's just you don't want to be that kind of sick.
And the flu shot isn't that bad.
No,
I've had a lot worse.
Yeah,
I don't know about that.
No. I've had it was bad.
Okay.
Flu shot's like nothing compared to it.
Well,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Did you know that people with like Chinese spouses in China aren't allowed to travel with their partners?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty shocking to me because
I heard that yesterday.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like if you're like overseas and your like significant other or maybe your kids are like Chinese, they can't like get on planes. And like all the planes
like,
are
even
being
if they're like born in America but they're like half Chinese or something, or is it like if they're born in China?
Probably all of the above.
Yeah, really. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that they're trying to restrict the travel of a lot of folks.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
In fact, I know they're taking the temperature. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I know
Very
they're
good.
taking the temperature of folks as they're about to board the plane. You know, part of the boarding process, and they take their temperature. And if anybody is presenting with any kind of a fever, they're not allowed to board the plane.
I know in China they've always done that. Like every
Really?
time I went to travel over there,
Yeah.
they have like a little thing set up with like a temperature monitor,
Mm-hmm.
and like you have to walk through it.
Mm-hmm.
And like I remember one time.
Well, now they
'cause-
just have a little handheld thing they just hold up to their forehead
Oh,
because
they
they have
do?
to scan everybody.
Oh,
Wow. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, my sister, I think she was coming over and she had like a little bit of a cold
Hmm.
and she had a fever and
that was
they,
game
yeah.
over.
oh yeah, I think they held us there for like, it was a few hours, I guess, which
Mhm.
wasn't bad because there are people like held there for days, like quarantine and stuff.
Yeah.
But it like we almost missed our flight because of it. It
Oh my-
was not good.
No.
No. But only 20% of cases
Hmm.
of the SARS virus are severe, which is interesting. Do you
Mhm.
think those cases will like the other 80%, you know?
So I think what happens, like for the remaining 80% people that do get the SARS, but it's a mild case,
Yeah.
so they develop antibodies, you know, and so they're less likely to be affected by that virus going forward. And so I think this is very similar to the Black Plague, you know, that
Oh,
during the
Dark Ages.
the Dark Ages. So what happened, and
That spread fast.
it spread fast.
It was like within a couple, like maybe like
And that
2 or
was
3
spread-
years,
that
it was
was-
like in all of Europe.
right, and that was because of rats.
Yeah.
And so the interesting thing, fast forwarding to today, a lot of the work that they were doing, trying to figure out how to solve some of the problems with AIDS and some of those issues, they actually looked at the surviving villages, the people that lived in these remote villages in England, where the family, they can actually trace their family back to the Dark Ages, right? And so that means that their ancestors had survived the Black Plague. So they had developed
Oh,
these
wow.
antibodies, and they found that these antibodies that these people possess helped them develop the vaccines and the treatment for people with AIDS and stuff. That's why you don't hear anything about AIDS anymore.
that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
it's still out there, but it's treatable now, and that's the reason why, because some really smart researchers started really thinking outside the box. You know, who has survived some really bad things, and they started thinking about it. And let's test them and see what they've got going on. You know,
That's crazy.
mhm.
I'd like to do that one day.
that is really a fascinating science.
Speaking of the Black Death,
Yes.
2019, 2 people in China contracted the Black Death.
What?
2019.
2019 that
Wow.
happened, yes.
Like late
That's
2019 or like
November of 2019. So,
That's the end of the year. Wow.
Oh, wow.
Well, that's interesting to know.
I
Yeah.
know that hospitals are being like really rapidly built
Mhm.
for this virus, which is crazy. And like
Mhm.
doctors are like breaking down everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's concerning for sure.
Mhm.
Like I guess we don't
Yeah.
know what'll happen.
I feel like it's a little disheartening if your doctor starts breaking down in front
Yeah.
of you.
Mm.
For
Because like
sure.
if you see that, I'd feel like I just like
Yeah.
just give up.
Especially if the government is saying everything's fine, but then the doctor's like, not fine.
Well, I mean, you know, they're probably working like 20-hour shifts. I
Oh,
mean,
for sure.
know.
I mean, hospitals, like 3,000 people are checking in a day.
right.
And it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I would
and they're
hate to
running
be-
out of medical supplies, right?
Yeah. Medical supplies, like space for sure.
Mhm. That's
'Cause-
why they're doing these hurry up buildings they're trying to put up.
Yeah. Man. Well, I guess.
You want to switch to politics. It's kind of an interesting thing. You know, back in '88, Joe Biden ran for president,
Oh, yeah.
and so he wrote a speech, and he gave the speech during his stump speech. Right? Turns out that that speech turned out to be his undoing, and so this is kind of like the Wayback Machine for some of our listeners here. But give a listen to this. Whoops. What am I got going on here? Somebody.
You got it.
Something is playing in the audio background. Here we go. All right. We'll try this here. Maybe not.
Candidate Joe
Here.
Biden, a senator from Delaware, had problems of his own. He closed a debate at the Iowa State Fair with an emotional invocation of his coal mining ancestors.
My ancestors who worked in the coal mines in Northeast Pennsylvania don't come up after 12 hours and play football for 4 hours.
The rival Dukakis campaign leaked a tape proving Biden had plagiarized the bit from a speech by a British politician talking about his family.
Those people who could wait for 8 hours underground and then come up and play football.
Why is it that Joe Biden is the first in his family ever to go to a university?
Why am I the first Chinook in 1,000 generations to be able to get to university? It was because
they didn't have a platform upon which to stand.
When more
Yeah, it was
instances
almost
of
word for word. It
plagiarism
was
followed,
listed. Yeah.
Biden withdrew.
I'm angry with myself for having been put myself in the position of having to make this choice. And I am no less frustrated with the environment of presidential politics.
So he's
That's
frustrated
crazy.
because he got found out. And Dukakis went on to lose his presidential bid. But the Dukakis camp was right to point out the duplicity, of Biden and not, being forthcoming. And of course, he had nothing else he could do but to say, "Oh, okay, I guess I did
Yeah.
cheat,"
I don't know
So-
how, I don't know. Running for president's a pretty big thing.
Yeah.
I don't know why he didn't think, like, how did he think he was going to get away with that?
Yeah, it's people that do goofy things. If the thing is, if you follow the straight and narrow and honest route,
Yeah.
very unlikely you're going to be in trouble. The problem, if you're dishonest, you have to remember the dishonest thing that you said or did, so that you can refer back to that and
Yeah, for
behave as
sure.
though it was an honest behavior.
You could have at
It's
least
too
paraphrased
complicated,
it or
right?
something. I don't know.
Yeah. He could say, like these people, my family was much like that. He could have referred to that other speech and would have been okay.
Mhm.
Right? He could have compared himself, as a favorable light that way. But he presented that speech like it was his own, and it really wasn't. So
Yeah.
interesting. But it was interesting that he got called out on it.
I know the impeachment trial has been a pretty
Mm-hmm.
hot topic for sure.
It has been, and
It's been going on for,
well,
or the
since
trial has been
while.
going on for like a week maybe,
right.
but the impeachment is going on since like December.
Well, and if you really can go back to the day after the president was elected, the conversation
Oh yeah,
already had
immediately.
begun.
Yeah.
So it almost goes back to 2016,
Mhm.
the impeachment. This is just a political maneuver, less about being factually accurate, but
Yeah.
kind of an interesting sign of the times.
What
So-
shocked me is how many people at our school and stuff thought that impeachment meant
Oh
he
my
was out
God.
of office.
Yeah, this
It was
is
so many people.
I remember people were posting I mean, he was already impeached. Why is he still in office?
yeah.
And it just blows my mind.
They didn't spend enough time in American history, apparently.
No,
Yeah.
I guess not. They don't teach that in history, which is kind of scary.
yeah, you have to. They don't teach a lot.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
There's this amazing electronic device now. It's called the internet.
Yeah.
And have you heard of it? Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, maybe.
So people can actually do I think self-education is an okay thing to do.
Yeah.
I think some of the smartest people I know are self-taught.
Yeah.
Instead
We're
of-
not surrounded by many of
Yeah.
those.
Okay. All righty. Well, we'll be right back. So please stick with us. We have much more to cover.
Welcome back to WSTU 1450, the Treasure Coast Forum. I'm Lucas Glory.
Right. Excellent. Hey, very good. Very good. Excellent. See, you're a professional now.
Yes, you are.
Very good, Lucas. All right. So we're going to pick up where we left off before break.
Yeah,
And-
more on the impeachment trial, I guess.
Right. We want to talk about the likely outcomes.
Oh, that's fun.
Mhm.
I volunteer Vance to go first.
Okay. Go ahead, Vance.
I personally do not believe that Trump will be impeached by the Senate.
Mhm.
No, I mean the
However-
Senate's like all Republican.
Yes,
How
exactly.
could he?
He was impeached by the House, which is, yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Yes, we know.
expected.
But however,
Well,
the outcome.
if you want, let's to kind of roll it back a little
Yeah.
bit, because for our listening audience that wants to follow the procedure.
Yeah.
So the House goes through they work like a prosecutor. So they develop a case as like a grand jury, and then the House managers present that case. So at the end of that process, they decide whether they're going to indict, which is basically what the impeachment is. It's an indictment, and then they bring it over to the Senate for trial, and then the Chief Justice kind of observes the proceedings, and then the senators work like jurors, and they get an opportunity to hear the House managers give their rationale why the president should be removed from office. So that should kind of give you the. And so back to you.
Well, for the outcome of this, he's most likely not going to be fully impeached or taken out of office. However, his numbers for being elected for a second term
Mhm.
will most likely go down drastically from this.
Okay. All right.
And-
Now, his numbers have gone up.
Have they?
Yes,
Did not.
They have?
they have. They've gone up dramatically.
Serious?
Yes.
I guess
So-
that kind of makes sense
It
because
does.
Trump's all publicity is good publicity.
Well, yeah.
type.
Well,
thing.
I think what's really happened is that I think the general public is just tired of the whole impeachment thing, and they just want it to
Yeah.
be over.
Mhm.
So I think that could be a part of it. I think the other part of it is I think the public that is actually following the impeachment process and the trial, and they see through the flimsy case that the House has brought forward, and they see that it's a political case rather than a legal case.
Mhm.
And so they're disinterested in wanting to support the president because they feel like the president is getting a raw deal.
Yeah.
So I think for that reason, I think during the most recent polling, the numbers have gone up. And I guess he had an event in New Jersey yesterday, and he had record numbers of people standing out. I forget how many thousands of people the event holds, but many times that amount of people were there trying to figure a way to get in to this event. And New
That's
Jersey,
wild.
which is a blue state.
Yeah.
So that,
What did his numbers go up to?
I think they're in the high 50s.
Seriously?
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you
I'd
think
have to
he'll be
research.
coming in for a second term?
Likely. And then the other dynamic is we're doing predictions, right? You want to hear my prediction? Or you
Yes.
guys want to do yours? Then I'll do mine at the end.
You can start.
Okay.
Wait, what?
I feel
No,
like you should
yeah,
do ours
I
first.
think you
Alright.
should do yours because
Let's start over
mine
there.
doesn't count.
No,
I don't want to
definitely
color your thinking.
I don't know
to
about
get
that
second.
one.
Are we talking about re-election right now?
Yeah, talking about the re-election. So the impeachment. So to back up, the reason why the impeachment is, we're having an election coming on near the end of this year. So that is the ultimate decision whether or not the president should continue in office, right?
Yeah.
That the people should decide. So I think that's why some of the pushback going on as well. But the other thing is that it's just a very strange time right now. Right?
Yeah.
But okay, so I really want to hear your
Okay.
thoughts.
I personally, before you told me that stat, I didn't think he would probably like get reelected because I
Okay.
feel like the impeachment trial would have like
Well, that
swayed
was-
people away from him.
This is exactly what the House managers were hoping for.
Yeah, and like,
Mhm.
but
The-
I understand what you're saying. Like, like when I hear more and more about it, all I'm getting from it is like the trial is basically like it's just like he said that and like that person said that and it was just like passed on and on.
Right.
There's no solid evidence, I guess.
right.
So like I understand like in my going back to the impeachment thing, I don't think he'll be impeached. Like, there's probably it's near 0% chance he'll be
Right.
impeached.
Right. And,
So-
and the reason why the House wanted to impeach him, because they felt that they could weaken his chances for a reelection. They'd soil him up, dirty him up enough to where he might not get reelected, because they felt if left alone, he would be a slam dunk to get reelected. That's a political decision, not a legal decision. Big difference.
Mhm.
I guess I'm still sticking with my all publicity is good publicity type thing.
Sure.
I think this impeachment, it's just kind of wasting time right now, because I don't know, but I don't think anything will happen with the impeachment, and I'm not sure if he'll be reelected, but he might, I guess. How
Yeah.
about you, Vance?
Well, at the beginning of this, I thought it was kind of a waste of time, because it is the things that a president can be impeached for is high crimes misdemeanor, treason, and two other things, bribery, and then that is since they went with high crimes and misdemeanors, since that's such a gray area,
Right.
it really seemed at the start they were grabbing at straws just to try and bash him with anything, essentially.
Right.
So it was kind of a Hail Mary to begin with. So I didn't know his numbers were going to go up from this. However, I definitely expected him to stay in office. As for after the election, I don't know who the other candidates are, or what their numbers are, so I don't think I can make a firm statement on whether or not he will become the next president or continue to be the president or not.
What is the leading Democratic, is it
Funny you should
Biden?
ask. Okay, this brings me into my thing. Okay, so the Democratic hopeful is, according to the folks that are doing all the studies, right, and the surveys, and what they're thinking is that Joe Biden really still has the best chance of beating Donald Trump. However, right now, Bernie Sanders is polling very well and doing so. He's likely to win Iowa, likely to win Delaware, which he's already won before in the previous round, right? When he was campaigning against Hillary, right? So here's my take on it. This is pretty convoluted. I got 3 minutes before the break. Okay, so I'm thinking that the Democratic Party really doesn't want Bernie Sanders, because if he is the Democratic nominee, likely Donald Trump would win. They would like Joe Biden to go, but if Joe Biden gets rolled up in this whole thing about Burisma and his son Hunter Biden taking $1 million from this oligarch in Europe, it's just it. And Joe Biden was responsible for helping him get into this job where he can get that money. It looks a little too shady. So Joe Biden, we've already shown on an earlier tape, is less than forthcoming about the way he portrays information. So if he loses to Sanders, I'm thinking that Hillary will come out of the wings, or another person, but
Warren?
Hillary Clinton.
What about Elizabeth Warren?
I
Isn't she
think
right there?
She is. No, her numbers are
She's
tanking.
dropping?
She is tanking.
Oh,
Yeah.
last time I checked, I thought she was 2 or 3. And
So my take on it is this. I'm thinking that it's going to be like a remake of Rocky. I think Hillary and Donald J. Trump are going to duke it out again. That's my prediction.
All right.
And we'll be right back.
Welcome back to WSTU 1450 on the Treasure Coast Forum. I'm Vance Williams.
Very good, Vance. All right.
Very nice.
Yeah, very good. Excellent. And maybe Vance and Lucas will make a return visit.
Oh, they for sure will.
Yes. Good.
Okay.
They got the radio bug now,
They
right?
do.
See that? All right. The virus is contagious.
Aw.
Excellent. So, what are we gonna close out the show? We're gonna talk about SpaceX.
Space.
Yeah.
Yeah, current
Some
events.
space stuff.
Yeah, so, was it yesterday? SpaceX put up more of the Starlink satellites. 60 of them went into space, I think.
Oh, seriously? I didn't know about
Yeah,
that.
yesterday. It was delayed a couple, 2-3 days, but I think they finally got it up. Each one of those, 60 of them. So imagine this. Each one of those is the size of a small refrigerator, like a college dorm refrigerator.
Oh, wow.
60 of those went up in one rocket.
That's
That's not that surprising, honestly.
Well, but that's a
I
lot
think
of-
it's cool.
that is amazing. I mean, when you think about it, because the old rockets would only put one up at a time, right?
Yeah.
So to put 60 up, and that is very cool technology. And their Starlink is going to be a communications process where people all over the globe can get connected, even in remote areas. So that's kind of neat.
Wow.
Speaking of Starlink,
Mhm.
turning over to the Starliner.
Yes. All right.
Yeah,
Nice
that
segue.
was a thing.
Nice.
So, if the people at home, if you haven't heard about the Starliner, it was a SpaceX rocket that it's planning to be a commercial flight to space for like the average, right? Is that right?
No, Starliner was the Boeing rocket.
Oh, okay, okay.
And that was the one that failed to make the International
Yeah.
Space Station and came back a few days earlier than
Mhm.
than its schedule, because it really didn't make the proper orbit in order to reach the International Space Station. But it did have a successful landing and recovery. So, yay on Boeing for that. So they
That's
will be
good.
able to use it, but it will not. No, they'll use it again, but they'll use it like SpaceX uses the Dragon capsule as a delivery device for bringing supplies to the International Space Station. But so the second time it goes up and it will get used again, it will not be crew rated. So that's kind of interesting.
hmm
But
Wow.
anyways, so you were saying,
I was gonna say something, I forgot it.
More
Okay.
about the commercial.
so you were
or
talking about
the-
you were talking about SpaceX though, right?
Yeah, but I was trying to talk about the Starliner. It's not a commercial. I got that wrong.
Yeah.
It's like it was just like what they did is it was unmanned, but they put like dummies in it
Yes.
just to test like the G's on it and stuff
Correct.
like that. And also recently I learned from my dad,
Mm-hmm.
they tested an ejection from a rocket just to see how many G's like a person would pull
Yes,
being
and that was
ejected out of, like-
SpaceX did that.
Yeah, that was
Mhm,
SpaceX, and
mhm. And they did that rather successfully too. So I think it was just about a week ago.
Mhm.
And so they have these what they call these Draco thrusters, and that left the capsule, the Dragon capsule left the rocket itself when it was about a minute or so into the flight, and by the time the rocket body lost its aerodynamic position because it didn't have a nose cone at it anymore, right? So it started tumbling and blew apart. But by then, the capsule was already like a mile or so away. In just seconds, it was just those Draco thrusters. To think about something that's flying through space,
Mhm.
at,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So
At
like
escape velocity, and for you to leave that is like, wow.
that's why they had to test the G's on that, because the rocket after a minute is already going like thousands of miles an hour, and to leave a rocket going 1,000 miles, because the rocket has
Yes.
to the capsule has to go faster than the rocket and then
Yes.
escape out. So like it has
Yes.
to like double the speed it's already going and then
Yeah.
fly out of there.
Yes. So a lot of technology, really amazing stuff. And it was a very successful SpaceX test.
That's really
And
cool.
they needed to pass that test in order for them to get crew rated. So, yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Tell us more about Mars, Lucas.
Mars?
Yeah.
yeah.
Mars, that's a little down the line. I think like what they're estimating SpaceX right now is probably 2030, around there, or a little after 2030, maybe 2040 is when they should first land on Mars.
Mhm.
And before then, this is NASA's prediction of
Right.
themselves. They say by 2024 they'll have landed on the moon again, and we'll start establishing a lunar
Base.
lunar base,
Mhm,
lunar colony,
mhm, mhm.
just to have like a sort of like a stopway, or like a, what do they call it? I don't know.
Yeah,
Something
yeah.
like that. Just
Well,
like,
it'll
so-
be a base really for because to leave the moon to go to Mars takes less energy than to leave the Earth to go to Mars.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to develop a base there on the moon, and then you don't need a whole lot of energy to create the escape velocity to head out towards Mars.
Yeah, because the
So
moon
that's-
is like 1/6 the
Correct.
gravity of Earth.
Correct. Right. So
You
you,
know,
go ahead.
okay, so one theory
Hmm.
about how to go from the moon to Mars or moon to any other place is magnetic propulsion, or like something that'll be low cost but high efficiency.
Hmm.
And since the moon is like, the gravity of moon is so like minuscule,
Hmm.
you don't need that much propulsion. So what they can do is they can just set up magnets to be attracted at first, and then in the end reverse their polarity and launch them towards whatever destination they're going to.
Aha. Cool.
That's crazy. Wow. So
Yes. Yeah. Well, one of the interesting things, we're coming up on near the end of the show, but one of the interesting things is that there was SpaceX is trying to create some buzz with their new Starship, which is ultimately they want to send to Mars, but they're going to send it to the moon first. And that's still under development. And there was a Japanese artist that was going to, in fact, we spoke about this last week. He was
Really?
actually wanting to interview women to be his girlfriend, to be perhaps his wife, and wanted to take her with him to go to the moon. And
where
it
do
was-
I apply?
Right, it's going to be an orbital. So it's going to be an orbital thing. Really, kind of a neat idea. And he just announced today that he wasn't going to do that. He's lost interest in.
Oh, lame.
Yeah, I know it. But it was a lot of people that were wanting to, partner up with the guy because get a free ticket to go to the moon.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
do that.
Right.
Space is cool.
Yeah, a
Right.
while ago. I'm trying to remember what it was for. I think it was, I might be wrong on this completely, but it was a bid for either the first person to go to the moon or first person to go to Mars or something like that.
Mm.
And some guy from China won it. And so he'll be one of the first people to go to either of those two places from SpaceX. Like Elon Musk promised the person that they will be the first one, or one of the first people to go there.
Yes, that was a Japanese guy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's an artist, and the whole idea was he was going to take a crew of artists with him, and they were going to look at the backside of the moon and orbit the moon a few times and create some amazing artistic renderings
That's so cool.
of their trip, But he said he doesn't. I don't know if that trip's being called off, but he's definitely not going.
Really?
Yeah, he's lost interest.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah,
I don't know how you
He's-
lose interest in
I
that.
would never lose interest
Yeah,
in that.
I
Are you
guess he
kidding
caught
me?
cold feet. Well, there's a lot of practice you got to do to
Yeah.
get on those spaceships. So,
I'm sure, but
yeah.
I feel like it'd be worth it. In the end.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
you bet.
Are you kidding me? Going to space?
The final frontier. All right. And we'll be back again next week. So thanks for sticking with us. Thank you, Jimmy.
Jamae.
Jamae. All right. And we'll see you next week. Goodbye.